Tibetan dance squares around the world. Paris, New York, Belgium, Netherlands, London, Toronto, Sydney, Dharamsala, Chengdu, Switzerland, LA, Bylakuppe, Ladakh, Mundgod. Let's take a look at Tibetan dance squares around the world. First, let's summarize the genealogy of modern Tibetan dance. Dancers who have maintained traditional Tibetan dance are classified as the original generation. And it is divided into the modern generation that dances today's Tibetan dance. The original generation is the generation that dances traditional dances that have been passed down from their ancestors. It has been passed down as an intangible cultural asset. Tibet became a vassal state of China. Tibetan exiles immigrated to countries around the world. Most of the exiles were intellectuals. They became the main force of Tibetan immigrants in each country. The exiles taught Tibetan dance that they had learned from their ancestors. It is a traditional Tibetan dance. Tibetan dance also differs depending on the place of origin of the exiles who teach the dance. It is divided into Kham, Amdo, and Lhasa. Most of the dances in the Lhasa region are centered. It is called Lakar Gorshey. In China, it is called Guozhuang dance. The dance culture of Tibet Autonomous Country in China is different. It starts from Xining, Kansu in the 2000s. Intellectuals who majored in dance in Xining created a new choreography. It was choreography to music that fits the current era. It is a modern dance performed by Tibetans around the world today. I call them the first generation of Tibetan modern dance. This is the symbol I am using for the first time. The group up to that point is called the original generation of Tibetan dance. Most of the important original generation became exiles. Their descendants are Tibetans living in various countries today. Traditional Tibetan dance is still alive among them. However, Tibetans living in China or other countries like modern Tibetan dance. It is a change from traditional Tibetan dance. Details cannot be included on video-centric YouTube. My art theory thesis is extensive. We will announce important things little by little on YouTube through digests. I hope this will be helpful to scholars studying Tibetan dance art. Tibetan dance must be approached from the perspective of human culture and art. This is why UNESCO must accept it as a world cultural property. Let's take a look at the Tibetan dance squares in each country. Chengdu we've already covered. We briefly introduce the squares of Toronto, Sydney, Paris, New York, Switzerland, Belgium, London, and Dharamsala. In particular, the dances of Ladakh, Bylakuppe, and Mundgod in India retain the most remnants of traditional dance. Toronto is a square that will become the source of Tibetan dance in the future. All residents dance together. Everyone from 3-year-old children to the elderly perform Tibetan dance. Their dancing skills are also similar. It's top-notch. Everyone lives like family. The elders teach them ethics and morals well. Cohesion is strong. Toronto helps talented dancers create the future stars of Tibetan dance. It produced dancers such as Lamocho, Depel, Cho Yong, Choki, and Sefel. We will analyze Toronto in detail next time. The Tibetan dance square in Paris is lively. There are many participants. As France is a country of art, there are many dancers who are good at dancing. However, the squares system is complicated and seems to be unorganized. Leaders just need to help talented dancers. The Paris Square will also have international fans. The same goes for squares in New York, Sydney, and London. There are many dances to participate in. There are no dancers that stand out. Dancers who dance well should be placed at the very back. The overall dance model will be better. New York is a city at the center of world culture. There are many participating dancers in the New York Square. However, dancers wearing traditional costumes are rare. Traditional clothing is a symbol of the Tibetan people. It is the most beautiful when dancing as a Tibetan. Anyone who wears a chupa can become a Tibetan. In New York Square, it is more important for people wearing chupa to gather. New York should also help good dancers. Sydney and Melbourne have a high level of family intimacy. There is a need for a support system for talented dancers. Excellent dancers also need to run individual websites. Dharamsala, Ladakh, Bir, Mundgod, Dhasa. Dance squares in India like Bylakuppe are very exciting. This is because the Tibetans in India have continued to dance well. In order to avoid leaving Tibet too far, they chose neighboring India as their country of exile. Their lives are harsher than those of Tibetans in Western countries. However, I can feel the true traditional Tibetan dance from them. I am moved. Their life is that of the Tibetan plateau. Along with nomadism, they also engage in farming. Although they do not wear expensive chuvas, they embody the spirit of Tibet. There are fans who fall in love with the dancing beauty wearing a pretty chupa and heavy makeup and send flowers. It's a good thing. I hope they will also help Tibetans living in India who are trying to keep their Tibetan spirit. Tibetan dance squares around the world dance like family. The square is the Tibetan diaspora. The Tibetan dance square is a window connecting Tibetan culture and life. I hope that Tibetan dance around the world will become a sentinel that protects Tibetan traditional dance. We want Tibetan dance to become known to the world. That is why Tibetan dance is so important in human history. We hope that Tibetan dance will become a world cultural heritage. UNESCO also hopes to review. Our Tibetan dancers critique YouTube is watched by many dance culture artists from around the world. Officials from each organization will also watch. We ask you to take a deep interest in Tibetan dance. I plan to introduce a series of Tibetan dance squares around the world. Historically speaking, Tibetans are a good people.